question we posed to Coach Smith on Monday, and it was followed by your offensive coordinator yesterday about dealing with the pressure, and Coach Smith said he can handle it because of the people in the building,
Yeah.
the people he's been with. Obviously, that would include individuals like yourself. What does it mean when you hear Coach being able to rely upon the relationships that he's had when there's a so-called pressure happening?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a positive. I think when he feels good about the people in the building and in the room, that makes you feel good. I think there's a difference between pressure and stress, right? Pressure is kind of a privilege, right? Pressure, what comes with being involved in something where there's high stakes, it's important. So I think you coach college football, there's pressure. You're a doctor in the operating room, there's pressure. Now, stress is when you kind of let it bring you down, or it affects your ability to do your job. And so I think we choose to look at it as pressure, right, as opposed to stress. So, I think everyone's going about their work and putting in the time to get us to be better during the week so we can go out and be better on game day.
And if I can do a quick follow-up, you've kind of presented yourself as a student of motivation.
Yeah.
A little bit deeper, in my opinion. In this situation, what have you kind of pulled out that's not already been part of your way of going about things, or something you kind of gathered that's new and fresh for the situation at hand?
Yeah, I just think, here's the thing, because people talk about motivation, and to me, when you talk about motivation, it's always intrinsic, right? It's like the best motivation is your personal motivation. And so when you have people who have pride in what they do and what their job is and what their performance is, then they're motivated, right? I think there's also the next form of motivation is motivation for your teammate and your brother or your sister and not letting them down. And then the third one is really the one for outside, or if it's because of some type of punishment or those. We're not really into that, right? We're into guys that are motivated because of their personal pride, and then guys that are doing it for each other. And if you have those type of people, you can kind of push through. So.
Kind of along the line of the first part of that. What's the line between, Jonathan said this the other day, not pushing the panic button, but having that sense of urgency? What's the line there to not get in the panic mode?
Truth, honesty. I think the way you have relationships with players in 2025, back in the day, and all of a sudden I became old. I'm 45 now, but back in the day, because I said so, and in fear and things like that, those things don't fly anymore. I don't think they fly with your kids either, too, when you're a parent. So, I think the best thing to do is just be honest about the situation that you're in, and show examples of why you're in the situation, and then show examples of how you're going to get out of the situation, and know that you're in it together, right? And when people feel that way on a team, then they're willing to work. I think when you start the blame, complain, deflect operation, okay, then what happens is people pull apart, and then you're done. So.
Do you feel like there's enough tape from this year in particular to show them
Yes.
what they can do?
Absolutely. There's examples all throughout the season, and then there's examples of the other side too. And so I think the negative portion is that they occur. The positive is that they can be fixed. So you got to fix them.
I feel like the pass rush, you finally find some success at Nebraska, and then last week, no JT, no Ben, no.
Yeah.
A step forward and a step back kind of situation on the injury front, health-wise.
Yeah. Health-wise? Yeah.
As far as would you get something going without those key guys?
Again, having done it for some years now, it's just football. You can get disappointed about not having someone available, or you can worry about the guys that are available and coach them and get them going. So, it's just part of it. So.
The urgency side of things. I know offense tends to be a very patient, methodical type of mentality, but defense, it feels like you can really line guys up and let them go out there and run. But when they're in a moment like this and it's a 3-game losing streak and you have those sorts of doubts externally, can you use that to fire your guys up and be like, look what everyone,
Yeah, I think
you do that. I don't know if that's healthy, but.
Well, no, there's different ways, right? One, you can kind of look at it as there's no one coming to save us, right? We're going to save ourselves, right? So that mentality is kind of unifying in some way. Hey, the block out any type of outside noise. It's the guys in the room doing it for each other. I think there is the ability to have a bond there created. Plus, I think anyone who's in competitive sports, when you're told you can't do something, that's motivating, right? And so I think there's that portion of it too. So I think those are things that you kind of talk to the group about, and they've had really good energy, and so that's not a concern. The energy needs to be consistent throughout the game, and I think a consistent execution will fuel the energy through fourth quarters.
More about as a guy that knows a lot about the history of Western Pennsylvania football, what does the Signetti name mean there? And what have you seen from Kurt particularly in
Yeah.
his program?
Well, his dad was the head coach at IUP, and he didn't recruit me. So, that's how I ended up playing Division III football. But no, he had tremendous success, and did it for a long time. And Coach Signetti, I have a lot of respect for, because he did it the hard way. And so he was the receiver coach at Alabama, winning national championships, and then he goes and takes a Division II job. How many guys would do that around the country, you think, right now? And I don't know him, but my assumption would be, it was like, hey, man, I'm betting on myself. I don't have a head job. I'm going to go get the one I can, and then I'm going to make the most of it. And then he jumps from there to Elon, to James Madison, and then I don't know if I missed any in between there, but now where he's at, having success. So I respect that as a guy who's kind of been up through the ranks type of guy. So I think there's discipline. I think they do what they do really well, and they go out and execute. And then they've recruited good players. Let's not underestimate that, too. That's a large part of the equation, is having good players. So in Western PA, it's obviously a football family, and he's continued that legacy.
One thing Brian mentioned yesterday is that it feels like a lot of people are studying how Kurt did this and how quickly he did this. You think that's a fair case in the profession right now?
Yeah, I do, but I don't know what you're going to study. And what I mean by that is the way he did it was with his culture. So if he's going to let you in the door to go look at what he did, that's fine. It's not about scheme. I can promise you that. The plays that they run are the plays that everyone else runs, right? They just run them better right now. And so that, to me, has to do with, how they're doing it. It's not what they're doing, it's how they're doing it, right? And that's the secret sauce to anything in life, let's be honest. It's not the what's, it's the hows. So, yeah, I do think people are looking into it and they're studying, but, they're probably not going to get it off of film. They're going to get it off of, what's going on, at the facility. So I agree, but I don't think it's as easy as, putting the tape on and saying, oh, they ran inside zone. That's not how you find it out. Now, if he lets you in to go look, then that's a different story, so.
We talked about him kind of taking the long way and going back levels and coaching his way up to build this. As soon as he gets to Indiana, it feels like it just clicked. And you talk about the culture side of things, but in terms of maybe speeding up the clock for other programs where you have fans or even donors or anyone pointing and being like, look how quickly this came to.
Yeah, you got to go get guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so when he came in and took over, he went and got guys.
Yeah.
Some really, really good players. And so then they coached them up well and they had success, and then that allowed them to get better guys. And so then it kind of worked from there. Now, it's multiple things going on at the same time. There's recruitment and there's development, right? It's recruiting the best players you can and then developing to their full potential. And so, that to me is what any football program boils down to, right? But I think that's what I kind of saw last season. They went out and got some really talented players. They plugged them in. They coached them well. They had success, and then that's allowed them to go out and get some more talented players. So I think everyone wants it fast, and I get it. And the portal probably has sped it up a little bit than when it was, hey, we got to recruit and get the guys through the classes. You can go get them sooner. So there's multiple things that go into that. But to answer the question the way you posed it, I would say, yeah, that's what I see.
John was talking about simplifying across all three phases, I guess.
Yeah.
Looking at the midpoint, everything. What does that sort of look like, and how do you go about that, I guess? Is
Yeah.
that needed, do you feel like
Yeah, I do. I think we're, just speaking honestly with you, I think our guys in the last few weeks have lacked a little confidence, right? And I think the way you can inject some confidence is by have there be less thinking, right? So kind of the mantra is simple, sound, fast, right? And that's kind of what we kind of talked to them about this week is let's make sure that we're going to simplify a little bit, but we got to be sound. You can't be unsound, and then that'll allow you to play fast. And if we can be simple, sound, and fast, we feel like we're going to put ourselves in position to play a really good game and give ourselves a chance to win the game.
What were sort of your takeaways last week when it was 38 unanswered points, and we talked about them having sort of new life, some different things going on, just
Yeah, it wasn't good enough. I mean, we didn't play well enough, and we didn't coach well enough. I mean, those are my takeaways. Like, and then we allowed ourselves when things weren't going our way in the third quarter, we allowed like the circumstance to dictate the behavior. So then our energy dropped in the third quarter because we were frustrated and we were upset and things weren't going our way. That's human nature, but anyone who's successful has got to be able to fight human nature and overcome human nature. So that's something we talked about on Sunday. So no matter what the circumstance is, it's got to be blocked out and be a process-oriented play to play. And if you put enough plays together, right, then it'll get to where you want it to be in terms of the score and the outcome and all those things. So.
We saw a little bit of a shakeup in the secondary to start last week. I think Chance and Aiden, Zion. Is that just competitive behind the scenes practice?
Yeah. I wouldn't look into it other than like those guys have been competing and playing and practicing, and so we kind of mixed it up a little bit, and so yeah.
What about the fellow that injury? You seemed like he was kind of how big of a loss is that for the front, and then also what you saw maybe on tape with Burnett coming in and getting more reps with all those guys out.
Yeah, so like I think that he, to your point, yes, he was ascending and he's done some really good things, and I really like him, and he's the type of guy we love to coach because he goes 1,000 miles an hour and he plays with tremendous effort and he's tough. And anytime you lose a guy like that, that's tough. Again, that's football. There's going to be injuries. So, I think, Santiago has stepped in and got some more, opportunities and some different things there. So I think that it gave him a chance. He's made some plays, and so we'll continue to disperse the reps.
Why did you play defensive line
Why?
as a player?
I was a 3-4 outside backer, and I had it in my head I was athletic enough to play linebacker. And so I went to college playing outside backer. And I started as a freshman, and then 4 games into my sophomore year, my defensive coordinator pulled me in and said, "We got to move you to D-line." And that was that. Because I wasn't athletic enough to cover, and we had gotten the ball ran on us, and he wanted to get his best guys on the field, so that was me moving inside. Now, I weighed a little heavier then, so I was 230, 235, but that wasn't the Big Ten, so that was the NCAC, so.
When you opening drive on defense, Gavin Terry was pretty sound.
Yeah.
Guys were firm and everything was clicking pretty good. Like you had shown earlier in the season, and through most of that second drive as well.
Yeah.
What do you think happened after that? You mentioned the energy and so forth.
I think a little bit of guys honestly pressing to make a play, right? And guys wanting to make a play, get a stop, and then when that happens and that seeps in sometimes, then what happens is you try to go do someone else's job and then you end up not doing yours. And so I think that started to creep in there in the second quarter into the third quarter.
When it be your top, I think they're fourth, Indiana's fourth nationally in total offense. When we're kind of in a phase where it's like, okay, well, we're on here, well, we're on there. How big of an opportunity does this become to go up against one of the best offenses?
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. And so, when you're in the room and you're coaching the guys, like you attempt to not make it so much about who you're playing, right? It's more about you and your process. But I think anytime you go against someone who's having a lot of success or highly ranked, I think it creates a little bit extra for the guys in terms of when they're looking at it on film and they see some talent and they see a really good team and it kind of adds to their preparation. So I think it's a great opportunity.
What's Mendoza done for that offense in terms of year-over-year change?
Yeah, so I think the kid last year, I forget his name, I thought he was really good and did a really nice job, but they were a little bit different. I think he's continued what they've been doing, right? I think he's accurate. I think he's an improved athlete from a little bit of last season and really a bigger arm. So I think he does a nice job. He's playing at a high level.
The amount of turnover that is during college football playing at some programs where you're coaching a different number of players every year. Do you think defensive coaches are having to adjust to realizing I've not had 5 years with this group, like maybe they've had in Iowa, where if you're putting in a lot of things that you want your defensive philosophy to be in the long term, sometimes there's flat tires along the way. I don't know if that makes any sense. We talk about simple flag now.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're trying to put in your whole system, but it might be hard to do when there's
Yeah.
players.
Yeah, I think There is, and that's a constant evaluation and constant evolution of what you're doing, right? Because I agree with you, where maybe you had 2 or 3 before, you don't now, because it's going to turn over like that, and there's like half the guys in the room are new, and that's always of constant thought on my end about what's too much, what's not enough, and you're always towing that line. But I do agree with you that there's got to be, try to find that sweet spot where you're not too simple, but also you can create variety, but it's not overly taxing, knowing that a lot of the guys that are out there, it's maybe their first year. So I agree with you.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.